Showtime. Hello and welcome to Kiki's Chat Show. Today is one of those days where it's sort of like a story time, but it's real. It's story time, but it's real. Now, whenever I have a show with this particular lady, people want to know who she is, where she gets the authority to speak from, etc., etc. People are always asking me, they want to know. So, people, we are going to find out who Professor Doctor, I don't know which comes first, whether it's Doctor, Professor, or Professor Doctor Brenya Twumasi. She is she's had all sorts of disciplines through the fields of law, psychology, and criminal justice. She's a founder and director of Tacticalops. I always have problem. This is a mouthful for me. And the website is going to be on the show, so you can click on the website to find out what she does there. And she's a lover of Christmas season, which I've kind of mentioned a few times. And she's a mummy and a grandma. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for all you've done for all of us for so many years.
I haven't done anything really. This is fun. And if you're doing something that is fun, it's not work. And if it's not work, it's just living. I think that my show, and this is just an aside, is for women, by women, to women, and sometimes men. Now, it's for women to be encouraged, to be empowered, to be strengthened, to learn something from somebody. So anything and everything is welcome. I say this to everyone. You can come on the show if you want something, you want to share something, you want to grow something, you want to learn something. Everyone is welcome. Now, without too much preamble, I had so many things I wanted to say before this, but I shall just shelve it all and ask you straight.
Okay.
What shall I call you? Shall I call you doctor or professor?
Could you call me Brenya?
Or whatever she wants me to call her, Brenya, so I'm going to do that.
Thank you.
Brenya, tell me about yourself. In fact, tell me, so that it's not an ambiguous question, tell me about your childhood. Where were you born, for example?
Okay, I was born in Tema, Ghana, and I grew up in Ghana.
Okay.
And I was born in a Oyoku clan, a Santihenis family, Ashanti from Dwaso and Dwabin.
I see. So you were born, but you were born in Tema, though. You were not born in Dwaso Dwabin.
Debbie, I was born in Tema, and we would visit Dwaso all the time. We'd stay in Dwaso with our big extended family all the time. And Kumasi.
Wow. Okay. So, and what was your childhood like? Tell us about your childhood.
Okay, so that's a question that my siblings and I love to answer, because we thought until we became older teenagers that our childhood was absolutely normal. But then we found out as older teenagers and young adults that was rather unique. So my mother's family is from the Netherlands, and the Netherlands is quite removed from us. So we grew up Ashanti. My first language was Tree. So I was very blessed to have three fantastic women in my life. My two grandmothers, that's my mother's mother and my dad's mother and my own mother, absolutely fantastic women. And so they gave us a great foundation. And so we grew up totally Ashanti. My mother adopted Ashanti culture.
Wow, your mother from the Netherlands adopted Ashanti culture.
Yes, amazing, wonderful woman, which again, we thought was absolutely normal until we were older and realized that was rather unique. So
why do you think it's unique? Why?
because mom is her first language was Dutch from the Netherlands,
Yeah.
and her second language, which she learned in the UK when she went to work for the National Health Institute in the UK. She met dad there at the hospital. They were both working there. English was only pidgin English at that point. She couldn't
For
speak.
your mother. For
Yes,
your mother.
yeah. She only learned English a couple of years before she met dad, so it wasn't fluent. And so when she came to Ghana as a young woman, she adopted her husband's culture completely.
But that's why do you think it's unique? I have a lot of in-laws and family, people, aunties who are from other countries, but they adopt, especially when it's a woman marrying a man, a
Correct.
Ghanaian man, they do adopt our culture because our culture is encompassing and it just draws you in.
True. It's true.
So why do you think it's unique?
So I'll emphasize again, we didn't think it was unique until we were older, teenagers and young adults. And then we realized that people who would come from anywhere, like Nigeria or Sierra Leone, Liberia, would often go visit their family, take their children with them, and they would oftentimes have vacations in their home country. So mom was unique because she totally adopted Ghana. She stayed in Ghana, adopted Ghana, and
Okay.
we thought that was what was normal. We didn't think of it. We just thought it was normal until later on we realized other people would go home to visit and so on and so forth.
Okay, I have questions on that, but we shan't go there.
Okay.
Um, that's good. So your mother was in the system.
I,
You view your childhood. For example, I'll tell you, I view my childhood as it was a bit of like a playground. There was so much fun, games, that sort of thing. So, how did you view yours?
so that's I love talking about that. So I have two brothers and I who were the first three children of seven.
Yeah.
And so the three of us were brought up similar to as though we are triplets. We're very bonded, very tight, share each other's secrets always openly up till today. And with those two brothers, I became as part of their group. I adored my brothers. I wanted to do everything they did. And so I did. So I became an athlete with them because I was the only girl always with all the boys, playing football, playing um, field hockey, playing running track. And that's when I started my athletic endeavors, not knowing that's what I was doing because the teacher chose me at age 8, but it was because of my brothers. I did everything with them and the boys. I always invited the girls to join in, but no other girls joined in. And we were young. We were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I didn't pause to think that was different. But that's where my athletic journey began because of always training with the boys.
Excellent. So you were a tomboy, basically.
That's what they say. I say Pippi Longstocking, and I say that because I loved my baby dolls. I loved dresses. Mom would dress me in shorts underneath the dresses and skirts because I'd be tumbling and jumping. And so I loved being a girl. However, I thought my social group was open because we were open, invited everybody, but the girls didn't seem to come and play with the boys I did.
The girls, I wouldn't play with the boys either. I would ride my bike with the boys, but I didn't see. There were so many things they did that wasn't for me. I want to dress up my dog or dress up myself or wear my mother's slippers and walk about the house, that sort of thing. There was no chance of me running around getting dirty. That was not my remit at
There you
all.
go. There you go. And mom said, yes, I would tumble and roll. And Arnold just would jump rooftops and pull me up. So I would get dirty, but I always had shorts underneath my pretty frilly dresses that I loved.
Stop playing with your thing because it ruffles, and so we can't hear you when it ruffles. Okay. So the other thing I meant to ask you. So so enter teenage years,
All right.
because all of this will determine how you got to where you are now. That's what the route we're taking. That's the journey, really. So you enter into teenage years and you enter into a secondary school. That's what we called it in Ghana at the time. Yeah.
Correct. Yes. At Shimota
So
Secondary.
how was that?
Okay, so from Legon Primary, me and my friends entered at Shimota, and we felt so wonderful to be admitted there because it's not easy to get into Shimota based on merit and grades. So we were all happy giving us each other in those days the what they call fist bumps now because we got on the list and we got in, and that's boarding school. And the way I explain boarding school to the audience that's not from that system is a mixture of three things. So I'll speak more to the say American audience, a mixture of kibbutz, Israeli kibbutz, Swiss finishing school, and American boot camp, all rolled into one. And we just loved it there in terms of the friendships we made, the bonds we made for life. So, for example, people marvel, all sorts of diverse people all over the world marvel at how we're still brothers and sisters from at Shimota, from boarding school, for real brothers and sisters. So I did athletics there. That's where I became the school captain for swimming. That's where I swam for Ghana nationally and did track and all sorts of sports and went on now to be a triathlete because of that background. So it was a very rich background that we were all very proud of belonging to as kids. And it was a kid type of pride that, wow, we got into this school that our parents really wanted us to try to get into.
Okay. Now, does that help you remember the song that we were taught from
We are
from
Ninos.
no, we are brothers and our
And sis
mother,
mother is our
our
school.
school. And
Yes.
so, um I think that it starts you off. And I'm glad you said that because it means it starts you off from childhood, and then
Yes.
you grow up, and then these are your friends for life,
For
really.
life. Brothers and sisters. For
Yeah.
real. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
And
Excellent.
yes. Great foundation, spring and board.
Sorry.
And you know
So
how we kids go ahead.
you found did you find your education there valuable, and did that help you
Oh
to
yeah,
spring into other
definitely. Definitely. So again, to emphasize, I had fantastic parents who prepared us for life in age-appropriate way. And Nachimota was where we spent most of our time. So 9 months out of every year, we were in boarding school for 5 years. And then I went to lower six to Ola Girls in Ho, Volta region. And then I ran away to Johns Hopkins University. And that was amazing. I was meant to go to Hawaii, believe it or not, because of Hawaii Five-O on television. We used to watch Hawaii Five-O on TV, and that's where I wanted to go. That's where I wanted to do law enforcement, law work. However, I was pre-med. So at Johns Hopkins, I switched from pre-med to law. And yes, at Shimota and Ghana prepared us for everything because I was totally emancipated at age 19, totally left home, first child to leave home out of the seven, and was able to hustle. So yes, Candy, I'm a hustler because I was able to hustle with good people, good support who came along the path, the flow, just wonderful, wonderful souls. Supported me to get good jobs and so on. Got minimum wage, worked 3 jobs all the time until today. Still today.
You
Three
still
jobs.
work 3 jobs
I
now?
still do. Yes, or more. Yes.
So when you say 3 jobs, somebody, if a normal person says I work 3 jobs, it means they have a day job. They do cleaning, morning cleaning in some office,
Yeah.
and then they do something at night.
Correct. Yeah.
What were your 3 jobs? What are your 3 jobs now?
Now, all right. So now I'm a professor, so I'm an academic scholar,
Yeah.
and I teach all three of my fields. I
Yeah.
teach law, I teach criminal justice, and I teach psychology. So in
Okay.
terms of the 3 jobs, I'm considered an adjunct professor, and so I'm able to have the free flow to work on 3 completely different campuses. So I compartmentalize. That's the way my brain operates. So I do the law work on one campus that's totally unassociated with the other 2. And the other 2, I do psychology and different aspects of psychology, different aspects of law and criminal justice. However, being an Achimotan, I've been recruited many times to create agencies. So I've founded 4 agencies, and I've co-founded one, so about 5. Along the way, teaching was not my flow at first. Although I started as a young person at 24 years old, I started teaching law right out of law school, one class on real property law. However, I started my first agency, Kiki, at age 11. I co-founded it with Sybil Williams-Baffo and Flossia Palu.
Don't mention people's names. They may not
Okay,
want to be added to this.
okay.
Okay, so you did that at the age of 11.
At the age of 11.
Would you describe yourself as a nerd or bookish or a serious person? Because you seem to
No,
be
no.
only on the academic role.
No. That's why I said with the boys, we just played all the time, played games and so on. And so that was my foundation. That's how I think. So have fun with laughing and jumping a swimming pool, diving, seeing if we can go to furthest in Labadie Beach, body surfers. So that's how my brain was formulated at a young age and continued on. However, it comes easy to me to be able to do analysis, and I started that at age 11.
I
That was
see.
easy for me.
So basically, you're an all-rounder. You did sports, you
Hmm.
did everything else, you had fun,
Yes.
and and you studied as well. What time did you get to do all this? Because I
Oh, okay.
played so much that I
Yes.
didn't have time to study.
So we were playing. So we were playing, as I said, we were laughing and playing and kicking the ball around and play. Remember, I said playing with my dolls and singing and dancing. Dad loved to dance, so we danced in the house all the time with music. Just had a really fantastic time with all that. So, in terms of time, that's the interesting thing. That's why I go back to my parents. They taught us at a very young age that you live life full. So, I have tweaked that, and I even teach it to my students that I actually live truly for the last 30 years intentionally and easily, one day at a time. So, when I
Tell
wake up,
me about your father. Your
okay,
father.
all right,
Yeah. What
okay.
was his profession, first of all?
He started off as a nurse,
A
and
nurse.
then yes, in England, that's where
Okay.
he met my mom at the hospital as a nurse, and
Okay.
then he switched to University of Ghana where he was teaching as a professor, and then he became also administration, eventually a dean, and he was heading for chancellor. So then, through a set of circumstances, he ended up co-founding the NDC party, and my uncle co-founded with Bouzia the NPP party. So that's my dad. So that's the background of that.
Okay. So your dad started as a nurse. He studied on the side, and then and through education he bettered himself and became
Yeah,
a university professor, right?
correct, correct. Yes,
So you were born into that sort of world. You were a daughter of a man who had achieved a lot of academic excellence,
correct.
and therefore it was easy for you
Yes,
to go through the disciplines and
it
the
was yes, it was
yeah,
natural.
it
It was
was
part of the
natural.
conversation. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
it was part of the conversation.
Yeah,
Very impressive. I think that people should be aware of that they always say that even if you're a single mother, if you better yourself, it helps your children. They see you, and it's by um, example that they see you, and then they also have that drive to strive. The
correct.
drive to strive. I could be a poet, you know.
You
The,
oh, you already are. We know that. You're a wonderful poet.
the
People
drive
need to
to
know this. We need
strive.
to out you.
Okay, so this is interesting. So okay, so that is your life. You were in there. You're a daughter of a university professor. You are
And he
striving.
was a nurse when I was born. Yes.
He was a nurse when you were actually born. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I thought He had done all that and then gave birth to you into a
No,
different kind of
no.
environment. Okay, good. So here you are in this environment. You are because I must remind you that you went to the best secondary school in West Africa, actually. One of
Thank
the
you.
best in the whole of West Africa. Achimota School is not to
Correct.
be sneezed at all.
Correct.
When you go to Achimota School and you finish and you
Mhm.
go to other schools, you can see the difference of,
Yes.
and I'm telling you,
Our
it's
foundation.
food,
Yeah.
the environment, the dormitory, everything is different. Everything is
Everything.
different. Which you take for granted when you're there. You don't realize it. I had never seen a bunk bed in
Okay.
a boarding house until I went to secondary school elsewhere.
Okay. We had
It
bunk
was
beds at
it
home.
was a shock to my system.
Wow. I
I
love it.
couldn't bear it. I kind of could not. Yeah, I just couldn't think someone. No, unless you're my cousin or my sister, I couldn't imagine that you're sharing my space.
I love that. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So just to let you know, I was more a practitioner than in academics. And I'm still a practitioner, not just in academics. So I wanted to remind, because people forget that I worked in the trenches for 35 years and did teaching part-time. My full-time work was practitioner. And least I forget, my babies are the most important to me. So I was a stay-at-home mother totally for 6 years. And that's when I redesigned the corporation I made at age 11, 12. I redesigned it and did that from home with the babies. Then when they went to school, I worked part-time at the clinic as a psychotherapist and would come home to pick them up from school. So they didn't even know they were missing me. And that went on. But I also worked at the World Bank, Attorney General's office, and different places. So as a practitioner first. Academics is second.
Okay, so when you say practitioner and when you also say trenches, two words that are trigger
Mm-hmm.
points for me,
Okay.
practitioner and trenches, does that mean that you're saying after the idyllic childhood, nice schools that you attended, the nice sports and everything, you're you go into John Hopkins University and all these places, you suddenly realize that there is a life outside of your
It
idyllic
was
growing
before. That's
up.
why I created a corporation at age 12. Our life was not that idyllic.
Really?
No, no, not at all. It
Let's
wasn't that
describe,
idyllic.
explain.
It'll be hard to explain quickly. And so I'll go back to what you asked, but it was not idyllic. So I'll go back to what you asked about practitioner and trenches, because I do have two persons who are part of the trenches with me. So practitioner and trenches in our language here, US side, is the same thing. Trenches is you go deeper, and Jerry can talk about that. But we go deeper in the trenches and do work. Most of the work is confidential. We do work that serves human beings. And that's what I do. And that's what I've been doing. And again, the academic part is I'm recruited because of my specialty as a practitioner. Practitioners working at the clinic, working in a law firm, and things like that.
Okay, I'm going to bring Jerry in a minute, but before he comes on, I want to know when you say trenches, you say, is that where, because sometimes we've had a few interviews where you've been on and then you argue with the people and tell them that, oh, you don't know my story because I have had the experience. I know what it is to be one of the masses, and I take bus and I take train, etc.,
Correct.
etc.
Correct. Yeah. I clean up pretty good. So I clean up when I come into the academic setting, which yours is right now for me. But otherwise, growing up was normal. I can't explain. It was normal that my brothers and I, until we were 19, when I was emancipated, totally left family permanently. we only walked or took trotro, and our friends, our best friends, were not from the elite group of people by any means at all. Our best friends were the friends that were around us, and we were one with them. And later on, that's why I said later on we found out that was rather unique, and
But you
that confused us
are
later
an
on.
elite. You are an elite, though. Your parents, your mother was a nurse practitioner in a very good hospital. Your father was
Your
a
dad,
professor in a
yeah,
university. You
your
went
dad,
to all the
yeah,
best education that Ghana could
right,
afford you, and
right.
you do not view yourself as an elite. There are
Dad
people.
and mom, and Jerry may be able to talk more to that point, but dad and mom um, grew us up separate from that. It was not my fault, not my brother's fault, not my sister's fault. My parents grew us up like that, that we were not elite. And it would take too long to explain all that in such a environment. So you just have to,
People want to know, though.
they want to
I
know,
mean, Jerry is on there, but I want to see how you explain yourself as not an elite,
right.
and yet you had all the education and environment and
Hmm.
friends who are
Hmm.
in the
I
elite.
understand. I understand.
How do you separate that? I'm desperate to know.
I understand that. When you're, it's easy to separate it. However, like you had mentioned, to be careful not to name names and so on. So my brain, being that of law and clinical work, based on that, my brain is stopping because I don't want to delve into other people's information and mention names. But I already said that those that we surround ourselves with, played with, did the athletics with. Like I trained with the Burma camp soldiers, for example, for being on a national swim team. That those are the only people I trained with, by the way. Um, they were not what we speak of in our nation as tagged as elite. So we didn't tag ourselves as elite as well because we were best friends, very best friends with people who are not tagged as elite. And we were kids. Remember, we were kids and teenagers.
Yeah,
That's how our foundation.
I'll leave that because you're
Thank you.
struggling with it a little bit. But
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I'm
because I don't
trying
want to
to
mention
say,
names or delve into their
you
backgrounds.
don't need to mention names.
Thank you.
What I was trying to find out was, if you are brought up in an elite environment, you go to all the best schools, you fitted in, you were okay,
Yeah.
and then you look back and then you think, oh, well, I played with the area boys.
No, not that. My best friends, and still today. And that's why Jerry's one of my best friends, and he's on now, and he was with me in the trenches. So maybe he can say a little bit about that to help out there because
Jerry,
he's right here.
yeah, okay.
Hello.
Hello, welcome to the show, Jerry. Jerry, is there anything you want to say to back up um, the professor's experience in the trenches, for example?
Yeah, I believe what she, when we talk about the trenches, we spent years working in the U.S. It's called an alternative school. These are boys and girls. When I say boys and girls, we're talking anywhere from 12 to 18 that either have come from families that had a criminal background, or they have had a criminal background. They've had all kinds of struggles. As a matter of fact, these are kind of like the marginalized ones that kind of like end up in society. And we were actually involved in an education system where we tried to prepare them with skills that your average person that has legal issues probably wouldn't have. Case in point, we had 14, 15, 16-year-olds that were probably reading at, in the US, what would be a third grade level. And if I can give you like an age that would go with that, you got somebody who's 15 or 16 that is reading at the same level as a 5-year-old. And not only that, a lot of the students, I mean, they just had a whole lot of family baggage that would prevent them from just sitting in a school and just having a normal education. And yes, some of them, came from homes where there was substance abuse. Some of the kids themselves were on Ritalin. So when we talk about the trenches, we're talking about kids that in the U.S. they used to call them throwaway kids, kids that their parents couldn't do anything with them, so they just kind of like put them out on the street. So where Brenya brought what she brought to the program, now that she has a lot of qualities, but her counseling qualities came out more than anything else. We had a lot of young kids in the program that were not used to seeing strong, positive female role models. And that was the one strength and quality that she brought to the program.
Excellent. I'm so happy you said that, because that's the journey. That's you validated the fact that she's a strong female role model for people. It's not just that she's led her life and arrogantly become a professor, a doctor, doing her work, but she actually went down, helped people, raised them up, as they say in that song, "You raise me up," kind of thing. So I'm so glad. Thank you so much, Jerry, for coming. I'm going to take you off again now.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I'll pay you later, Jerry. I'll pay you later.
Okay. Now, wow, that's really interesting. That is really interesting, Brenya. This is like in this country we have this program which is This Is Your Life, and they bring up a booklet and they tell you all the things that you've done, and this is your life. People cry, people are emotional, and this was not the intention of the show, but hey, it's there are different ways of doing things. So yeah, Brenya, tell me more. When you talk about trenches again, you have other people that you have interacted with, which has helped you or open your eyes to other experiences.
Right. So starting out, when we were doing in Ghana, the women's health, creating the Women's Health Council in Ghana, which is what Dad started. We would go into villages to do the surveys and research to help the women. And when you go in, there's some people who step aside. There are others who are naturally talk with the individuals, the families, and they become tighter with them, and so are better able to help. And that's the set of people within the circle I roll with always. That's why I said just something natural since youth. So started being in the villages, doing that work at age 16 because of Dad pulling me along and getting paid a stipend for the work I did with fertility issues and health issues and so on and so forth. That's never stopped. Now, what Jerry didn't mention, because as you could see, he was in uniform, is that we worked with probation, parole, and I worked with a lot of street gangs. And that my street gang work started in Baltimore City when I was 21 years old. And Jerry didn't mention that because he also is being private. We're being very cautious of a lot of things that we do.
Is Jerry a policeman?
He's a detective. He was chief of police. He was deputy chief of fire, military retiree, an incredible person originally from Jamaica who has done a lot for this community. And right now he's a detective, and right now he's working. He's actually working in his patrol car, working a case.
So moving on from Jerry, because we don't even have his last name. We don't know anything about Jerry.
Which is a good thing.
Okay, so what else propelled you or made you feel that you were in the trenches that has learned you a lot of experience?
All right, so the three different fields are separate. We separate them out. So within the field of psychology, for the state of Maryland, the governor had made me the child abuse and neglect specialist.
Wow.
for the whole state, and that is a role that is given to someone who knows about what the children are suffering through in child abuse, neglect, and so on and so forth, and is making changes. So I trained the social workers, and again, it's not an academic position. You have to have your hands, what they say colloquially, dirty, that you know what's going on. Working with pimps and prostitutes, working in the correctional facility as correctional staff, I did that as well, and got an award for that. So I put my whole heart. It's easy for me to put my heart in it and love people, and that's the trenches. So I do work now on helping with the human trafficking issues, and I've been doing that since the 1990s. So I feel right now hesitant, and I'm looking hesitant because a lot of the work is confidential. And so, and especially since you would support me to caution me or mention names, I'm even more hesitant of
No,
going
you
deeper
see,
into that,
no,
work
you
about the
can
trenches.
you can talk about your work without mentioning anybody's name.
But
You
I
can
think of
talk
things
about,
in the trenches as
yeah,
and interdependent. That's how I think, not as an
yeah, but it
individual.
can still be, you're the
Yes.
legal brain, and you can still do that and give us an idea of how, you've done, what you've seen, without actually naming names,
That's
without
true.
naming
That's
places or
true.
people, or there should not
Yes.
be any identification. Now, you can, I caution you only because um you know I have to caution you. But at the same time, you can say what you want, but then
Yeah,
the
I know.
consequence will be on you.
Yeah, I know. I know.
You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
that's more of it. It's not that I'm trying to shut you up.
Yeah,
We need to hear your story. That's
that's
what
true.
everyone's listening. I've got people on the show very
So,
interested to
so
know
yes,
what
I
you've
understand.
done.
I
You know,
understand. I understand. So it
uh,
hasn't been easy. It's never been easy. You always have, always up till today, as a woman especially, hurdles to climb over in all the work that you do. You have what a very good friend calls interference. You don't want interference. You want to be able to help serve all the people that are asking for help, all the people that you're responsible for. But then we get a lot of interference where it takes a little bit longer. So another person I have who's been invited to this show today is Susan, and she is one of the persons who's been side by side with me on a lot of these projects. And Susan is the most confidential person, so she's going to try today to talk a little bit about them, like the develop Ghana roads that we've been working on for how long,
Mommy
Susan?
Susan. Hello, Susan. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Susan is a lawyer, actually
Yeah.
practicing lawyer.
Yes.
So Susan knows the score. I would like to think that Susan knows the score. Now, Susan, in relation to Brenya, you can give us a background of your interaction with Brenya, where you've gone, how you met, and what you've done so far.
Okay. So I've known Brenya for quite some time now. She's known my family since 1972. She's classmates with my brother, and also very good. She was very close friends with my sister as well. So my whole family knows her because they also attended Achimota. So that so I know her from that perspective. But we've worked collaboratively together on various agencies such as C4C Kaleidoscope, and also on Women United for Africa. We've done some work also with the developed Ghana roads.
Wow. So you've done a lot yourself. But by this admission, you've really done quite a bit. So yeah, I mean, and how did you collaborate? Do you want to give us a little bit more and be a bit more meat on the collaboration?
Okay, so sometimes some of the stuff it's a lot of background stuff. So Women United for Africa deals with women issues as well as child trafficking. So sometimes um, we have to monitor current events and things that are of information to the appropriate authority. Some of the work that is done, like with Develop Ghana Roads, looking at the condition of roads and what can be done to help improve the roads, and seeking the right people to talk to. Brenya does a lot of work. Some of the time I'm not even aware of what she does, but she does a lot that pertain to Ghana and advocating for them for when on a he's always on some project where we either visiting, talking to people, making donations, as well as he pursues on the side a passion for sports. So taking part in athletic stuff whilst.
Let me give people a background on when you talk about Brenya being on the board for the Ghana Roads, for example.
I founded it with Susan. We founded it together.
The reason why Brenya founded it, which is, which would draw people in really, is that a horrible accident occurred and people passed away. Now, I don't know, we're not going to go deeply into that, but it affected a lot of people, especially my school. We were very affected because a mate was in that accident, and one of the reasons for the accident was bad road. The roads were not good, and so I think was it before that? And Brenya's brother also had an accident on one of these terrible roads in Ghana. And so it is emotion, it is anger, it is determination, it is to try and solve something, to try, and which is why they founded the roads. I remember joining. This is before the internet. I think the only internet communication was by email. So we all kind of joined by email. Everybody was very, it was shocking and upsetting and that sort of thing. So we went through that pain, and Brenya and Susan were the people who founded it, set it up. And it's still in operation, although our roads are still bad in Ghana. But we hope that one day things will sort themselves out. So this gives a picture to anyone who's listening that Brenya, apart from everything else she does, she has gone through situations where she has tried or is still in the process of trying to solve and help and correct things that are not right. Thank you so much, Susan, for joining us for the short time that you are on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah,
Susan's awesome.
Sorry. So Brenya, we have a few more minutes, and we come back to you. I have a question, and it's a burning question, and about 3 people have asked me that. Why do you think you are not an elite if you've grown up in that setting? And one of the questions was Kanye West's mother was a professor. She was in the bracket of the educated people of America, Black and educated, and a university professor. Her son, highly intelligent. It's unfortunate that he's turned out to be whatever it is, however people see him.
You've helped me have an answer with talk about Kanye.
So Kanye is a top example, really. There are other examples. So you could say that a child who is born in a house where the father is a priest and the mother is the mother of the church, and yet the girl becomes a prostitute. The question is, why do you view yourself as not being part of? The people, you interact with the people, you still talk to the people.
Of course. It goes back, and I'm being repetitive, so apologize. for being repetitive. Just so it goes back to my parents. We had nothing to do with that. So, for example, in the very beginning, I mentioned that we'd always been in Draso and Kumasi and Drabin. And yes, we come from the Santihini's family. So, yes, we're elites there. But my parents didn't let us know that because they purposefully together in conversations by themselves, which we didn't find out until I was 19, 20. We did not know. They purposefully, with my Ashanti family, decided not to have us grow up in any way. And remember, please remember, it's not my fault as a child, as an elite. So we did at home. I don't want to go into our home life, but it was not easy. Our home flow and journey, for the fact that we were siloed to do a lot of
Studying.
service, not study. No, we were not bookworms. Let me say this. I'm glad you're asking that at the end. I barely ever study because I barely have time to study ever.
So you're a genius.
Candy, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I for every C grade I've ever earned, I've worked hard at it. But studying has never been. Everyone who knows me, even in House 11, right, the dorms, they would say, why is she falling asleep so soon? Because I'd go to sleep, O levels, A levels. Now we're talking that at 9 p.m. I tried. And I can't mention names, but they all know. I tried. They would come feed me coffee and watch to see if I could stay awake. I couldn't. So no, working so many jobs, working hard at home as the oldest girl, working hard with my family, my Shanti family, as the oldest girl of my family, which is important in that culture. No time to study. No, I was not a bookworm. There was no time to study. There's a lot of work to do.
Okay.
We at Ablimpe, we didn't have water, and I mentioned a name which I didn't want to. Ablimpe, we didn't have water coming from the taps for 2 years, so we'd fetch water
in your home,
the house, the whole house, courtyard, everything. So there's just too much. And I said that before, that the audience just has to trust me, but it's hard to trust people. So thank you for asking again, so I could quickly, looking at the time, give quick answers, but it would take too long to explain. And yeah, being careful about people, including my parents.
Okay. Listeners, I am so glad that you stayed and listened. And the nutshell of what I have picked from this discussion, and I've tried to ask enough probing questions, is that notwithstanding many situations, because even though she had all the education, she went through all sorts of things, she was not exposed to the little princess life.
No, not at all.
So, and even so, she has made it to become a doctor, professor in her field. She has not been arrogant enough to say, well, I've achieved so much and therefore I don't do this or that. She joins in, she dirties her hands. She has helped people. Brenya, this show is not to give you some wild accolades but this show is to help people see that in whatever situation you find yourself, you need to just keep moving. And that thing that we say these days, we move and we do, and we get into it. And Brenya has actually had an award recently. She gets awards all the time, but she recently had an award from Joe Biden of America, president. And I was very proud. I cried because, as you know, and as you've heard, there was so much horrible things. Brenya has experienced a lot and she doesn't want to tell us about it. But I just want you to know that she's worked with prostitutes, people who've been shot at, people who have been imprisoned, and people who had no hope or felt they had no hope. Brenya made them realize that they had hope. It's Christmas. I've put a full stop to
Awesome.
the Brenya issue.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Now,
Yes.
Christmas will be on Sunday. I wish you all the best, all of you. And when you talk into whether it's turkey, fufu and light soup, rice, jollof, whatever it is, just say a prayer for yourself, and then for your children, family, and surroundings. Because whatever it is, your story is better than someone else's. People want to be in your shoes that you don't know about. However bad you think your life is, somebody wants to be in your shoes. People, I love you. I am grateful that you stayed to the end. There were babies, dogs barking. Everyone was
My
part of this.
grandbaby.
But we are grateful all the same. Thank you so much, Brenya. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Susan. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I shall be back on Christmas Day. I'll tell you what I ate. I'll tell you what I think. Bad things have happened. I'll even talk about Harry and Meghan. So watch out.
Nice.
Thank you so much.
Big respect to you, Kiki. Big respect. You're awesome.
Oh,